Last week, I very fortunately had the chance to meet Elon Musk and Sam Altman. When I started my entrepreneurial journey, there wasn't any framework to rely on to get started. It used to be anywhere between $200 million. When we started that business, there was no Mintra. I am so optimistic as a founder that I believe it will work. I will never make a good investor. No employees. No, none of us were taking a salary. We didn't have a website. We didn't have a payment gateway. We had nothing. I think once you have become an entrepreneur, it is like doing drugs.
So guys, we have Nikhil here. He is the founder of Grip, as he has already been introduced. He is Aditya's fine similar industry. I personally am not much into finance, so Grip I had heard a lot, but not exactly what you guys do and stuff like that. So that's one thing. Why am I taking this chat? Is because we have agreed on taking a session where we do not talk exactly about grip and what bonds market is doing and what other things in grip are happening. We will of course talk about grip, but in another light, of course. This conversation we have thought of keeping it as real as possible, where we go through his life journey fresh, like we have discussed right now. You can. So, and then we will open it for some Q&A or whatever time we have. Right? निखिल क्या चल रहा है कहाँ से आप कुंगाम के अभी you are working in Gurgaon. You just told me you're not from Gurgaon, born somewhere else. So why don't you take me through your let's talk about a little bit about the school life. Sure. And then what were you doing there? And then how did you transition and stuff like that?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I think what you guys are doing here is very important. I think when I started my entrepreneurial journey, there wasn't any any framework uh, to rely on to get started, and so it was more of learning while you build. But I do think that having some amount of structure always helps, right? So like you said, I think we'll keep the conversation as real as possible. Very happy to take more questions at the end of this and give you enough perspective as you think about your journey as founders. Coming to your question, so born in Delhi, but my dad was my dad's in finance, and he happened to move a lot of roles as his career progressed. So while we started schooling in Delhi, I ended up going through 7 different schools between Delhi, Bombay, and Bangalore. And so for us, every 2 years roughly, we had to change schools because it changed the city.
Yeah.
And so a lot of my childhood I remember as being that, which I think is different from most kids. And that day, none of you will relate to it, but at that point we did have Facebook. Or we used to have something called Orkut towards the later part of my schooling life, but we didn't have Facebook. We didn't have any other method. So every 2 years, it also meant I had to make new friends. And so life as a child was, and that was our normal. We never thought, this is abnormal. We never thought this was painful. And it was something that we used to just do as a family every 2 years, get up, move to a new city, move to a new school.
Yeah.
Must have taught you a lot. In retrospect, yeah. I think at that point of time, obviously, you're too young to appreciate it. But if I look back, it taught you to be okay with change, which is such an important thing as an entrepreneur, to be very okay with change, to be very open to going into new situations. As you get older, school becomes more difficult, right? Because you're in your teenage years, friend circles have built up.
Right.
So I remember shifting school in my junior school versus senior school. It was a very different experience, right? So lots of learnings. Obviously, some pieces were much harder than other pieces.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it definitely did some role in preparing me for what came later in my career.
While you were in school, hopping from one place to another, your father got the finance. Agrawal generally had in business, yeah, business and finance only. So no surprise. But तब पता था आपको कि आप entrepreneur बनोगे? पता था entrepreneurship क्या होती है?
I don't think I'd ever heard the word entrepreneurship. Obviously, you heard the word business. Again, coming from a Aggarwal family. Though no one in my family actually runs a business. No one is a businessman. Everyone's in service. Uh, but for me, there was always a desire to get your business.
Yeah.
I started my first business when I was in undergrad college.
Yeah.
I started an event management company. So for 3 years that I was doing economics honors at Delhi University, we ran an event management company. Uh, we did a lot of events around campus, and we used to raise money, charge people money for doing events, and do that. So that's my first company.
Like proper college finance, nice.
Yeah, like
This is like quanti के साथ. Yeah.
no, a little bit bigger than that. The first event was we did a rock concert in IIT Delhi. There were a few rock bands at that point of time, which were popular, called Zero and a few others, and we got them together. 5,000 audience, man. So it was very decent event.
Earning decent.
Earning decent. I think we must have made somewhere around 35, 40 lakhs.
It is kind
Within the span of 2 weeks.
should be.
That's we were 4 5 people who did
Profit.
yeah profit. So
Yeah.
I look back now and remember how much mistakes we made. It was the first time we did something, right? So some anecdote. So we printed tickets, but we didn't ever think about counterfeit. So we didn't realize that someone would counterfeit the tickets. And सोचा ही नहीं, right? Nowadays, if you go to an event, there'll be TV screens, there'll be food, people will money of those things. We didn't think about making money from those. We only thought of ticket sales. And so we were very limited by those, and those are mistakes we learned from. But yeah,
She had a woke up here. I company on this. So she did.
I mean, we just school, we were college friends who got together and did something.
We didn't continue that.
So we continued for 3 years. We did, several other debate competitions, pan university. So we did a bunch of things around campus, but this was never, this was good while it lasted. But at that point of time, wanted to go back to study, so never thought of making this into a business. But my second business was so I went from economics honors to FMS for my MBA. And so I started a business in FMS where, we used to all, I don't know how many people have read Archie comics. I'm assuming everyone's read Archie comics, but, used to have Archie and Reggie wearing the university jacket, right, with the letter Riverdale R letter. But there was no merchandising in India. So we wanted to create merchandising. So we went to our college administration and we licensed the FMS logo for a year. And we said we will merchandise it. Okay. So we started doing t-shirts and cups, standard merchandising stuff, and retailing that. So they were kind enough to give us the merchandise, the license for a year for 1 lakh rupees because we were students. And so we did. So that was my second business.
I graduated from Delhi and Hostel is it from?
Also Delhi, FMS Delhi, Delhi University. So that was the second business. Again, lots of things to learn from, right? If we had thought of it properly, that could have, hypothetically could have been the next Mitra, because when we started that business, there was no Mitra. But if we had thought online, I think I missed that opportunity to say that the business should not have been run at a purely traditional manner, because we printed t-shirts and we sold them offline. We never thought of creating a website and selling online. At that point of time, online was not a big thing. So that was a missed opportunity. But yeah, so that was the second business.
So within the college span, you had your two businesses, both running DC.
Yeah.
Profit can be about.
The second business was loss making. The first business was okay.
And then
Third business was a food truck, which I
was still in college.
no, I did my first job. I was doing a job and I wanted to.
After college, got it.
I went to HSBC. That was my first job. I spent 7 months there. Interestingly, this was as the introduction was in the financial crisis. So, and my job was in home loans. So financial crisis was entirely created by home loans. But this was an India job, so it was not Bombay. So I moved to Mumbai. And my team was responsible for rebuilding the home loans book in HSBC. So we had to think about things like credit and distribution. So absolutely traditional banking job. So I spent 7 months doing that, and then I got a chance to move to Morgan Stanley. So I went to Morgan Stanley, spent 6 years there. Well, I was in Bhopal. I was in Bhopal, I guess. That time it was low pay. Yeah, Morgan Stanley was low pay. It's still low pay. Yeah. When you stayed, yeah. I stayed there for 6 years. 6 years in Bhopal. Yeah, that's my longest job. Yeah, that I've ever had. So I only had two jobs, HSBC and Morgan Stanley.
While you were in college, you had your entrepreneurial stints.
Yeah.
Then you decided to take up a job.
Yeah, so I think I think there are two things. One is my view was that when I start a company, and see my both the two companies that I started in college, I would say were hobbies. Yeah, they were not businesses. Right, I never thought of them as businesses. Yeah, I think there was an itch and urge to do something entrepreneurial. They were also phenomenal learning experiences. I don't think college in India is very rigorous at all. So we have a lot of free time, and hence you can do these things. But when as I completed my MBA, got into the professional world, I realized that thinking about business has to be very different.
Yeah.
Which means that I also need to be in a place personally where I can commit to 3 to 4 years of building a business, right? With a very high probability that it'll not work. Okay. So, yeah. Which means I need to have a certain amount of savings. You knew this like that? I think the MBA was a very helpful uh, program to go through, yeah, to understand some of these aspects, right? So, and then I think given that my dad was in finance, there's a reason why children do the same, are likely to do the same profession as their fathers, yeah, or their mothers, because you hear it at home, right? So I used to hear about finance and business at home, and so I had a general sense that okay, this is something I should look out for.
Yeah.
What also happened was that the career opportunities I got at Morgan Stanley were just an incredible learning curve.
Yeah. Big Ryan, I'm sure he was working with bigger things.
Absolutely, right? So you work with bigger things, you dealt with more complex situations, you dealt with larger businesses, you dealt with smarter people. So in all ways, it's an irreplaceable training program.
What were you doing in Morgan Stanley?
I was doing investment banking, so helping companies predominantly in technology sector, but also to some extent real estate, automotive, raise money from either through an IPO or if they wanted to sell or acquire other businesses, right? So very much about what goes into building a business and how to make it successful, but dealing with companies at a very large scale.
Post Series VC.
Yeah, significantly. Like for example, in some of the ticket size, so, it used to be anywhere between $200 million. $200 million is what? 1,600 crores. Yeah, to about $1 billion. So very, very large companies. For example, one of the transactions that I really enjoyed working on was we used to help Jaguar Land Rover raise money. Now, to have an opportunity to work for a company which is UK based and raise money was just an unbelievable experience. So I think through those 6 years at Morgan Stanley, there was no reason for me to think about leaving and starting something else or changing a job, because if you're learning in a place, I mean, that's what most of us want to do, right? You want to learn, you want to progress in life. Yeah, it was a fantastic experience.
What were the key takeaways and relationships that you must have built?
Yeah,
while you were here in Morgan Stanley that helped you much later in life? You remember any?
yeah. And I'm still in touch with my most of my team from Morgan Stanley, and those are actually the biggest and most important relationships I've built. I'll talk about why, but coming to the learnings point, one which I think is missing here, which we miss a lot in India, is a desire for excellence. We are very okay, and this I'm talking about. I'm not saying anyone in particular or pointing out, but I think as a society, we are often very okay with mediocre work. Yeah. Chalta hai, right? So as we get to 70-80% of something, we're okay with it.
Yeah.
But that attention of detail for that last 20% is often missing with us. But at Morgan Stanley, that is not over.
That's where the excellence lies as well.
That's where the excellence lies, right? So, for example, you know, if in a Word document that I'm reading today, I I can tell you where there's an extra space in a line in about a minute's time because that's the attention of detail that Morgan Stanley expected me to deliver as an analyst, sure, right? Any comma that is out of place will irritate the shit out of me even today because I cannot tolerate it because 6 years in Morgan Stanley, I was I was expected not to tolerate.
Especially in your formative years as well.
Absolutely right. So if I'm talking about very irrelevant things in some way, but if colors are off, spacing is off, commas are off, if you have that level of attention or detail, I think that's the biggest thing that Morgan Stanley taught me. And you obviously then bring it to the bigger things in your life, right? I think that's one. I think number two is communication.
Okay.
You are in the front of a CEO of a company, of a publicly listed company. The way you communicate, the way you have to, make yourself fan present, the way you bring out an idea is obviously very different. Uh, it comes out to how you dress, and often the most the learnings that actually stay are the soft skill learnings. Right? I don't know how to make a financial model, but I don't do that anymore. That's not the learning that's stayed with me. It's the soft skill learnings that you pick up during the formative years that stayed with you. And I think those are very critical today.
And relationships.
Most important was my team. Um, for the first thing that when I started my first company, many of them invested in, so they gave me capital to start my company. They continue to be investors also in crypto.
Your losses.
My bosses. So I think that was a big part of the relationship. Many of the angel investors who came in my first company were my clients from Morgan Stanley. So I think those relationships were very valuable. They were so from my in terms of my bosses. So there's my boss is a guy called Kamal Yadav, uh, and there's another gentleman called Mr. Vishnu Bansal, chairman of Morgan Stanley, Sundareshwaran. So all these guys invested in the company at that point of time. There's a guy called Sachin Doshi who now runs a very large residential and commercial real estate practice out of Hong Kong. He wrote one of the largest angel checks for my early company. There should be a lawyer we used to work with called Rajiv. He was one of the angel investors in that company. So yeah, so lots of folks wrote very meaningful capital.
While you were working in, now we have two directions to go to. I will quickly talk about Vinny Vansal and some relationships as a show, relationship with them. And while you're working at Morgan Stanley, and then we will go to Brit.
Sure.
Yeah. So what was it like working with? So did you work with any famous founders back when you were serving?
Yeah.
About Stanley. What did you do? How were they? Tell us about them.
So I had a chance to work, or I would say work is maybe a bit of a stretch, but meet with Sachin Bansal, Deep Kalra, uh, Vijay Shekhar Sharma. Uh, so all of the guys who are building, the first age of this thing. I think the more detail and in certain cases we would pitch to them, but ended up not representing them. In certain cases, we would work very closely with their teams because obviously these guys were at a much senior level. But I think, last week, I very fortunately had the chance to meet Elon Musk and Sam Altman. And so I think I'll just try to combine all of these experiences into what I have picked up from them, and some of them are very common. The one is that their thinking is very, very large. Right? They don't think small. The Tesla factory, what's called the Gigafactory, is 11 million square feet of factory space. Okay. Um, Maybe a different way to easier way to put it is that the length of the factory line is 1.6 kilometers. Okay. So you can imagine how large the factory is.
Yeah.
And to believe that he will produce that many cars to create a 1.6 kilometer long factory line. It's just impressive. So all of these founders are thinking very long term, very large scale. And my big reflection was that we need to push the boundary even as founders today to not just see what we're solving today, but what we can solve in the future. Right. And then there's a lot of elements of how to execute it. And that's number one. Number two is question status quo constantly. Question status quo, question everything on a first principle level. I mean, we all read books. We all went to the bookstore. All of us should have been able to identify the problem that Flipkart. Right? There's no reason. Should have all done it. All of us used to call the grocery wala and say ki ghar pe, deliver rice, but none of us thought of Zepto, right? Or if there's a problem state, we are all almost 99% of the time ready to accept the way things are. Yeah. Okay? I think the people who are able to really build something of value are able to question why a deep customer pain point exists and just not be okay.
You think? Uh, I personally think that ideas. Everybody has ideas, right? We have what about 5-6 people in our admissions department. Each person can only talk 300 minutes a day. So each person talks to 10 people with their ideas, right? Everybody had an idea. Everybody thinks that they can do it. But honestly speaking, a lot of ideas are really great as well. And you see them fading, shortly. So where do you think most people go wrong? Because like you said right now that uh, Flipkart or books example, everybody knew that okay, it's a problem, right? And delivering in 10 minutes, everybody knew would have been done. Zepto did it. Then Rupert swallowed, right? I personally think that execution is where people go wrong. They नहीं सकते इतना stress. तो मैं क्या वो है
I think it's
thought about this.
see, it's a funnel, right? And let me give you a hypothetical situation. Today, the number one problem facing people in Delhi is pollution. Yeah. Okay. So now we are 40 crore people in this in NCR. I think that's right, 40 crore people. Out of that 40 crore people, maybe 1 crore are thinking कि इसको solve करना चाहिए. 39 crore are saying ये ऐसे ही है, right? तो वो तो they are eliminated at the top of the funnel. ठीक है ना? Now that 1 crore people are thinking we should solve it, only half of them probably, and I'm just making up random numbers, right? Half of them will actually think twice and say, okay, let me come up with an idea, etc., etc. You get my drift where I'm going. Maybe 10,000 will actually come up with some idea. Only 100 of those ideas will have some viability, right? And maybe 1% will exist, right? Problem is there's a drop off at every level. Yeah. And we have to, if we want to be a really, Vikshit Bharat, we have to solve all parts of the family. Right? So we have to solve more people thinking about ideas, and then also the quality of the idea, the quality of the execution. Right? I think great founders cover all of them, and they think about things much larger scale. Right? Is extending this. Someone, municipal corporation throws water every day in a way not sustainable, not scalable, not a solution. Right? Someone thinking thought about cloud, seed in the clouds, sustainable idea. Maybe there are some challenges to doing it. So, there are good ideas, bad execution, good execution. You get it all right. And that's why this is so hard. It's not easy. It is a hard business.
I know that it's hard. I really feel that it's hard. How hard do you think it is?
Um, it is harder than you can think it is hard.
Anybody who has an idea you think should become an entrepreneur or should think about it 5 times before.
Yeah. No,
What's up?
so being an entrepreneur is like just because you have an idea,
Yeah.
please do not go down the entrepreneurial path.
Yeah.
I think you need to think very hard about whether this makes sense for you, whether it makes sense for your family, because an entrepreneurial journey is not bringing yourself. You bring your entire family into it. Um, be it's very easy to get fooled by feeling that you got an idea, it will be successful. You be real about it. And walking away from saying that this is not for me is a very respectable thing to do, and going back to doing whatever else you want in life, right? You want to do a job, you want to do something else. Absolutely. Probability is that you will earn more money. 100%. 100. The probability that I will earn more money from my job at Morgan Stanley as an entrepreneur, 100%. No question about it. Right? The risk of being an entrepreneur and what it costs, both financially, physically, mentally, is incredible. And it is not something that I would advise if you want to put on the path of.
Why does one become an entrepreneur? You think it's like doing drugs?
Hmm. I think that's an interesting comparison. Never thought of it that way. I think once you have become an entrepreneur, it is like doing drugs. It is like staying on a trap. I will done drugs. I have not actually. I've never. I'm not even done beats. So I can, but I can. So I can not relate to the feeling, but I can relate to the word. Because I are crazy. You can not. No, actually, I've never even smoked a cigarette. So believe me, I'm not done drugs. Are you addicted to something? I am addicted to work. Yeah, I work 24/7. But I think it is addictive. It is very hard. Like I cannot consider going back to a job today. I cannot. What is it? Is it a dopamine? Guys? What is it? एक कुछ तो एक चूल है. I think it is the uh, ability to feel control. For me, it is the ability to feel control. For you guys, uh, maybe for others, it's a different thing. Yeah. But for me, the ability to say that I'm in control of the outcome of my company or the future, or I'm building something I've seen, is my rush. The feeling of I can do it better? No, because I know I can't do it better. Yeah, I can like if you see something and see that oh, okay, this is also too big. I can do it better. Not the exact same thing. Like I cannot uh uh do everything better. Well, yeah, right. But so a particular problem statement. Correct. Huh. Like if you find a problem and you think that okay, this is a startup idea that I want to continue, yes, right, and you feel that hey, whatever is being done right now, I can do it better. So I'll make sure. Did you start because you wanted to do it, or you started because you wanted to earn a lot of money? Because you were already earning money. Yeah. No, it was not for the money. That's not entirely true. Money is an important outcome, yes, right? But I don't think that uh, I am doing it because of that. Is not the end goal. Yeah. Money is a is important to have, very important to have, and it is also a metric of success, right? So I definitely want to make sure that whatever I do earns me a lot of money. Yeah. But I'm not doing that's not the rush to do it. If that was a rush, I would be doing my old job.
While you were in Morgan Stanley, you must have been doing fine. Sure. Right. And how much were you earning? Give me some clue. Yeah.
A lot.
Plus, plus books.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to share this room, but I'm not sure Morgan Stanley will be happy if I share it otherwise. But I used to earn about a crore and a half when I was 24.
What for?
1.5
Per price, yeah, per annum.
per annum when I was 24 years old.
24 years old. And we're talking about 2011. In 2008, price capital, you were in HSBC.
So that 10 Morgan Stanley, 10 years. Pop. I joined HSBC when I was 20.
आज की जो है वो तो बोले 3 crore.
Whatever, but still a very, I mean, even if it's, even with 1.5 shows, yeah.
Now, I don't want to talk about what you're doing there. Are you on the similar amount right now?
I take zero salary.
Remotely, if possible, you right?
My wife runs very well. But I also, in my case, I
Equity value होना क्या?
I exited my stake in my previous start. So I earned from there.
While you were at Morgan Stanley, what inspired you? What was that moment? Can you go back in time, call me?
Sure.
You must be maybe sitting. in a room, at your desk, maybe at your home. And can you describe that situation where you had this thing that, okay, let's do this. I want to do this.
Yeah.
Were you married back then? Like,
Yeah.
paint me a picture.
So, when I was thinking about, doing something else, I was 29.
Yeah.
I was married, didn't have kids. Um, my parents had done well for themselves. So I did not have a pressure of saying, "Ki, okay, I need to support them. Uh, touch wood, they're also fairly healthy. So there was no medical concern. And hence my financial obligations were in that sense limited to my nuclear unit.
You were a comfort.
These are all comfort. And when you talk about why I didn't start up immediately afterwards, I think it was important to solve for. Right, I could take the risk of leaving Morgan Stanley, doing a startup, it completely failing, and I still not having to, not having a significant impact on my quality of life. Right? At least you can come home and be at peace that okay, your wife is fine, your everything is fine. I think it's very important. Otherwise, how will you put all the stress into work? Right. So that was the situation then. I think
You
the
must have had decent savings also because you were earning well. Were you extracting money back then, or you were also saving? You were a Aggarwal, I'm sure you would be saving.
I was, yeah. I think this is one thing about being a Agrawal that I don't have somehow. So I I I don't think splurging is maybe the right word, but I used to live like very comfortably, and there was no question about we need to save, etc. We just fortunately earned enough to not worry about it. I think that I reached a point in Morgan Stanley where I could see the next 2 or 3 years from a professional point of view being similar as the last 2 3 years. The learning curve had sort of, in that sense, plateaued. And while I did not have an idea, that was just a point in time where I said, okay, I would like to do something different. And rather than a job, I'm in a great place to take risk. Okay, I'm young enough, no financial responsibilities,
Also married.
also married. Let's go out and take this chance. And so that's what triggered the move to going to entrepreneurship.
You quit your job before having an idea of uh, your coming
Yeah,
venture.
I think I met someone towards the last part of my time at Morgan Stanley, who became my co-founder. So there was some amount of initial idea, and he already had an idea, so we went and built his idea. But I had not agreed to commit or to join them. I think I left Morgan Stanley because doing a day job, at least I wasn't able to put all of myself into thinking whether this makes sense to me, right? And so I felt that let me leave. I have a 3 month notice period. No, I'll unwind during that period of time. Also have come time to think about this and then be able to jump into the next
Yeah.
setup.
So you started with your buddy's idea was also be that
What he was not, yeah. So he actually was not working in Morgan Stanley. Many of you must have heard this company called Carvale. So he was a founder of Carvale, and he used to be my client at Morgan Stanley. He was my client at Morgan Stanley, and during the time that I was helping him think about his business, we got we became friends, and he wanted to start something in the bus space.
Okay.
And as a result, thank you. And as a result of that, that's the business we done. So we built a company called Chalo, which is which helps people take city buses. All right. Yeah, and I ran it for 4 years, but that company continues to run today. Mohit, who is my co-founder, and another is sort of team.
and you were your capacity in in that company. What were you doing? What was your level of skin in the game?
Yeah, so because at Morgan Stanley, I used to do a lot of dealing with business. Um, the role I picked up at Chalo was also to do with business, which was that we needed to go to bus operators, including governments, and convince them that they should take our solution. Okay? So it was a business development role uh, for establishing Chalo across India, and obviously fundraising, etc. Because that was also a lot of learnings from Morgan Stanley.
Got it. And then what happened?
So 4 years, 4 years, and then I got a chance.
You had some equity in it?
I had like meaningful equity in the business.
Okay.
So
After 4 years, you exited.
no, I kept the equity. I exited I exited about 2 or 3 years ago,
All right.
and then I got a chance to join the World Bank after Shadow. Or yeah, and then they were assembling a team to help the government of India create a policy for public transportation and buses and electric vehicles, and they were looking for people from the private sector to join. So it was the same problem statement, but from a very different lens. And I think World Bank is a very interesting place. It's a very different place, right? As a founder, you often think about 1 quarter, 6 months. The World Bank thinks of everything in decades. So it was an opportunity I didn't want to pass by. And so I exited Chalo. I left my job. The team continued, and I joined the World Bank. I spent 2.5 years as a consultant to the World Bank.
Where?
Really,
Delhi, Central Delhi office.
that was COVID.
Yeah.
COVID hit, so I actually never went to office. But yeah, we sort of the, I mean, anchored to the Delhi office.
This year, would it be?
2019 to 2000, late 2019, early 2020 to 22. Yeah,
That comes.
that COVID.
Same time where my fiance,
Hmm.
today's fiance girlfriend at the time, was working in UN.
Okay.
Lodi ke Adiwas. So I'm assuming same building hai.
So there, this is Kasturba Gandhi Mark HT Towers.
The UN और इसका ऑफिस अलग अलग I believe the similar UNESCO is
Maybe there. Yeah. Yeah, similar times.
then how did Griff happen?
I think so two things happened simultaneously. At the World Bank, you talked about it being a drug. So as an entrepreneur, you're constantly you're in a very operational role. Like you're constantly executing, you're at control of things. With the World Bank, you're a consultant.
Yeah.
Okay. You're not in control of outcomes.
Before World Bank, you were with your buddy having had 4 years in your entrepreneurial journey, super thrill, super excitement,
Yeah.
super sadness.
Yeah.
And then you have World Bank where all of a sudden everything is stable.
Everything is stable. You want a tax fee salary.
And your mind is like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
I'm earning a
So again, I think each experience, like whether it was my job at Morgan Stanley HSBC, whether it was Chalo, whether it was World Bank and now Grip,
Yeah.
has had very different and incredible learnings, and everything has added up. So each experience is something that I cherish, but for different reasons, right? And each experience is frustrating for different reasons. Uh, as an entrepreneur, there are enough things to be frustrated about on a daily basis. The World Bank was great from changing how I could think about things much more long term and putting foundation at them. But there was a certain degree of different level of pace than what an obviously than what a startup has, right? Or a different level of operational. And I miss that. And I wanted to get back to that hustle, that execution, and hence the path was to go back to building a new company. Lots of insights while being at Morgan Stanley, while being at World Bank and Chalo, was that finance was a big word. Right? Companies in India did not have access to finance, especially debt finance. They didn't get loans, and I thought that that's a problem to solve. So Grip was started as a way to bridge that gap.
World Bank meeting. When was this?
This was 21.
Very
One when we started.
कितना time that I did you have to decide that or you started while you were in World Bank?
7 hours.
Okay.
I had the flexibility too, so I said.
I mean, who was the founder? Who was the co-founder with you?
So two guys, Vivek and Ashish, we'll all be together at Chalo. So we had known each other for now. At the time we started about 3 or 4 years. Now obviously 8 years. So all of us brought different skill sets. Ashish is a techie, so he's from IT and Kharagpur, and so he brought in the product and tech experience. Uh, Vivek is a hardcore ops and BD guy, so he came in from that experience, and I played more of a strategy fundraising role. क्या रहता है? Very simply, our thesis, and you know, very famously, we've gone through our pivots in our own life. So I tell you what gripped us today. Um, we believe that Indians, had only two ways to invest money. Either you could put money in an FD, which earns today 4, 5, 6%, or you could put money in the stock market, right, which will earn you maybe 12%, maybe more, but be highly volatile. ऊपर नीचे रहना है, yeah. But जो gap है between FD and stock market, 6 to 12%, this gap is very large. There has to be a better way to invest in that gap. So GRIP gives you investment options in that gap. Now that we don't give you investment options stock market, we don't give you investment options fixed deposit. We give you investment options in the middle, things like bonds, mutual funds, do those as well.
That's what you're doing right now.
Like,
What did you start with when you were
you started 21 in 21. So you take from your experiences. So I understood mobility and I understood finance. So in 21, electric vehicles had just started happening in India.
I think that was the time when I think used maybe or at least saw grip आप ये करते थे आप कि किसी को you invest and then that bike will be put into use and then you rent it out and then give the return. That's right. Yeah, that was not recent.
Yeah, so we understood about it. So I talk about the first thing we did. There's a company called Zip, which all of us will be familiar with.
Yeah.
So Zip used to, at that point of time, COVID had just happened, and deliveries were suddenly very important, right? So Zip had started doing Zomato, Swiggy deliveries using electric vehicles. When we first started working with them, they had some 200 or 300 bikes. They now have 20,000 bikes.
You started working with it.
Zip doing it. So we used to allow people like you to invest as little as say 20,000 rupees.
Yeah.
And then aggregate that money, buy electric vehicles and lease it to Zip. And Zip would use it and then give a monthly rent, which all investors would get depending on how much they invest.
This is what you started with.
This was how we started.
This was your idea.
This was my idea, coming out of my experience with Chalo, coming out of my World Bank. And so I still remember the first deal we did was worth 24.5 lakh rupees. And each scooter used to cost roughly 60,000-70,000 rupees. So we leased these scooters to them for 3 years. For 2 years. Yeah.
And why did you pivot?
Kaisa brother. So this business grew very well.
Is any amount we do or to start with?
Yeah. So within the first couple of months of starting the business, we raised a seed round. We raised about 6 crore rupees in a seed round.
The kind of people that we have here today and the people that watch our content on it as well are generally speaking from idea to not series A, probably idea level पे ही मान लो आप maximum audience है 20%, 10-20% would be at execution stage where they are like about to raise or say preparing to raise. So this is that stage that where you were in 2021. That's right, I have to say,
Yeah.
right? So this experience that you share would be a little more relevant, right? So enlighten us.
Yeah, so let me go into a little bit more detail. I think we started thinking about the business in early 2021. And I'm going to give a slightly longer story, right? So bear with me. Um, I think we had gotten together and said, okay, fine, this makes sense. We couldn't even figure out the name of the company. Like, we had multiple options. We still have so many domain names registered to us because we not took time to figure out what name we want to go with. And then we decided, okay, fine, this is broadly what we want to do. But we said we have to test key people want to do this or not, right? I said like everyone can have ideas, but how do they do work? So there used to be there is this company called Furlenco. Yeah. I don't know if you guys have come across it. So they rent furniture. At that point of time, Furlenco was looking to raise some money, and the minimum you could invest was 10 lakh rupees. Okay, and give money to Furlenco. They would give you interest and they pay money. So we said that 10 lakhs is a doable amount. हम Furlenco को बोलेंगे हम 10 lakh, we give 10 lakhs, right? Worst case, 3 of us will pool 10 lakhs and we give it. But we said, let us now take this idea to our friends, to our family, and say, you invest 1 lakh. Can we find 10 people to invest 1 lakh? Okay. And then we will accumulate it, give it to Furlenco, and this will be some amount of test to see are people okay with this idea. So
That was your MVP.
That was our MVP, PMF, whatever you call it, right? So we made a 1-pager PDF note. We wrote about Furlenco, and we WhatsApp to people. We didn't have a website. We didn't have a payment gateway. We had nothing. Okay. We didn't have a bank account. We didn't have a company. Okay. So now where will people transfer money?
Yeah.
So they transferred money to one of our personal accounts. Okay. And we took that whatever 7-8 lakh rupees that we were able to collect, combined our 3 lakh rupees, and that one person invested in Furlenco. Every month Furlenco would pay money. This one person would make any of the payments to all 10 of us. Okay. So this was how we started the business. And we said, okay, there is some interest for this thing. Let us take the next step. So the next step was that, okay, we need to build we set website. Forget app. App is too expensive, too much commitment. Let's start on a website. So we registered a company, we created a website, and instead of the PDF, we now used to write a online memo. Okay, of it again, no payment gateway, nothing. But we said at least now people can discover us. We can send a link rather than sending a document.
The team grip आ गया.
Grip आ गया था तब तक, so we went to the grip league.
कितना महीने हो चुके अब तक?
2-3 महीने हो चुके थे. And so no employees, none of us were taking a salary. So Ashish's friend को बोला किया तू website बनाते. So he made the website. I wrote the content, right? As basic as
Website.
Huh?
Mixed side website.
Yeah, absolutely. As basic, right? Because there's no point of investing money until you can prove it. So we did this on the basis of the website. We did the first deal with Zip.
There is no point of investing money up until you can do it. You said.
And there has to be some proof, right? Just because you think it will work doesn't mean it will work. So I think building those proof points is very important in early part of your journey. And I do not agree that it has to be you need money to prove it. Not possible, right? Pick the smallest version of that use case and go test it out. And so then we did this Zip deal, and we got 24 lakhs, double of what we were doing earlier. So we said, okay, this makes sense. So the next thing we did was we put a payment gateway, because collecting money will become a merit.
ये जो 24 lakh रुपए आपने collect करनी है from people around you.
Right. So all around us. So there was no marketing. We didn't know market. We didn't have much.
This was just a cold
WhatsApps to people.
That's it.
And we realized that not only are people who we are WhatsApping investing, but the people we are WhatsApping are asking also their friend to invest.
Early signs of PMF.
Early signs of PMF. Yeah. And so then we said, okay, fine, let us now invest some money. So 3 of us together put in 50 lakh rupees into the business.
Wow.
We hired our first employee.
Yeah.
And we built out the web page to be also now a payment gateway.
So in this 50 lakh rupee gamble, you of course had money to invest earlier before that as well. It was, of course, you were just waiting for some signals, some early testing. So you made your starting MVP and got your first sales with a PDF. And that's about it. That's what where you didn't have a company name, but you didn't have a bank account, you didn't have any product. It was somebody else's product on the weather. And then the second step, and then he decided to, okay, put in money. Okay, got it. While this was happening, you were working in Old Duck.
and my other two co-founders were working in the other companies. Sorry, right? Yeah. And so none of us left our jobs. Yeah. At that point of time, and then we did this, relax, and then we started doing more such.
What else did you try while you were doing these things? If you go back in time, remember,
In terms of a different business idea,
so within this only, hey, we tried this also, didn't work. We tried this also, and okay. Then we tried this, and didn't work. Or you
we
were,
got lucky.
yeah.
We got lucky.
अभी तक आपकी पूरी स्टोरी में लक सुप्रीम पे चल रहा है.
You haven't asked me the question on the unlucky piece. No, but on this part at least, you got very lucky.
Yeah.
And so we didn't, to be honest, we didn't try anything else at this point of time. I think what also helped was, now the next part is that, within a couple of months, we managed to sign the term sheet for our seed round. Okay, and that happened also because I had done this once before and traction with it, and there was, I think, more than traction. I think two things came into play. One, if you remember that period of time, the funding environment had gone crazy. Yeah. Everyone was getting funded. Everyone was getting. I was a second-time founder, easier to raise money, Morgan Stanley, and invest. Fintech has always been a hot investor. Fintech, for us to be able to pick this seat on that.
How soon did you raise? I mean, with complete that round.
It always takes 3 or 4 months to complete a round because of documentation. Because we were early, diligence was not much, but documentation takes time.
6 crore rupees, I would like.
We did it at a 35 valuation.
Convertible.
No, it was on regular. Yeah. But I mean, no reason not to do convertible. I think convertible notes are great. I've done them all my life. But this round was not a convertible.
First round, without the financials, from whiteboard rounds, shows a lot of conviction from the investor side.
Yeah. Like I said, it was a different time.
Yeah.
There were certain things that went in our favor. Sorry. Re-revenue. Yeah, I mean, pre-revenue.
Almost pre.
Yeah, so I think also going to the right type of investor. Like, you cannot go to a late stage investor to buck on his company. So I think you also need to focus. We'd only spoken to 2 investors when we did our term sheet. So I think we focus our energies on the right set of investors.
Somebody else was anti-share banking with this, or
No,
you retired anyway?
I would strongly advise you not to hire, not for founders to hire anyone so early in the journey. People don't take it the right way. Investors want to meet you. Actually, the most important thing is investors want to know that you can raise money. But the critical part of a founder's job is to raise money, and if you can't do it, you're not investing.
Do you need successful? Yeah, then you being Abanya as well gives you sustainability, I believe.
Every unicorn founder is Banya, right? So give a lot of bit access to yeah. No, that definitely helped, and you need the guidance. And in my case, fortunately, I had the experiences. But when I meant a banker is like, a banker typically represents you, right? I think that at an early stage may not be the right thing to do. So yeah.
Makes sense. And 6 crore rupees money in the bank.
And then we started building up the team. Because to me, building a sustainable business is like building the team is the most important thing, right? And as we built out the team, you obviously could build a more elaborate tech product, better consumer journeys, could have business development. All of those things started coming into place to make this business. So I think in our first year, we ended up doing 100 crores worth of investments that we facilitated. So starting from the 10 lakh rupees, the business scaled really nicely. We ended up doing about 100 crores.
Interesting. What sort of licenses came into play there, which probably would have given you a lot of tracks to do clear what you were getting back?
Yeah. So this is the the difficult parts and things that you could do differently. So there was no licenses. There did not exist a license for what we were doing.
Because it was a black space that you discovered.
Yeah.
After that, there would be new discovery of licenses.
Correct. So in 2022, SEBI introduced a license. It's called the OBPP license. You can all Google what it means. Uh, but it effectively meant that the product that we were selling could not be sold in the form that would be, and it had to take on a different form for selling. So by the time the license became effective, it was March 23. We had done about 600 crores of investments for the platform. And on 31st March, we shut down that business completely, right? So it went to zero. And on 1st April, we took our license and we started selling completely different product. View company or, same company, didn't change anything, but just took over license. Yeah. Ultimately, the view was that what is the, and what I communicated to you about what GIP is trying to solve, we're trying to solve that gap between FDs and equity, right? With a product that gives you fixed monthly returns. Lease gives you fixed monthly returns. This gives you fixed monthly returns. So we said, okay, we can't do the product that you were doing earlier. Let's do the product that we can do now, but it still solves the same proposition. And ultimately, as long as the investor need is solved, how does the product matter, right? So we took the license and started selling bonds, corporate bonds, which also solves the same basic. And so that's the pivot we made in changing the product. Then we sold. It was a mammoth exercise. One is that our revenues obviously collapsed, right? Um, but we had to completely redo our app, our website, because whatever we were selling could not be sold in the same form. We had to take a license. We had to integrate with the stock exchange. Uh, we had to convince our team that this made sense to do. They had, by the time I scale a team, we had to convince our investors that this made sense to do. We had raised another round in the middle. So it was we effectively for 6 months from April 23 to October 23, effectively were rebuilding grip, rebuilding the business. What do you from literally from one to zero? How what did it feel like? It felt like it was challenging, but I think it was the right thing to. I mean, I felt the right thing to do then. And if you are doing the right thing and you have support both from your employees and external stakeholders, I think it becomes easier to do because we were so convinced that it was the right thing to do and we had thought it through. It then did not feel like the end of the world is here. Okay, so I think uh, a lot of companies who were doing similar business to ours did not take their choice, did not have the courage to take that decision, and they're paying for it today. I think I'm very glad that we had the courage to do the right thing. Right? Because in a business in fintech, if you're not regulated, there's no skin. So, and we should all be as founders open to be able to rethink our business, challenge status quo, and say, okay, now we can do something different. And so it was a very hard time, but it was supported by the paddle, right?
You said it did feel like the end of the world,
Hmm.
right? Besides this experience, when has it ever felt like the end of the world in your probably entrepreneurial journey, maybe a personal journey that overlaps with work where you don't see probably any progress or whatever your students. And then how did you go?
Yeah. So I can't, it would not be right of me to say that I've ever felt the end of the world. I think as a founder, you have to be deeply optimistic as a person.
You have to be.
You have to be.
You now you have to say that.
No, no. Because look, you will not start a business if you're not deeply optimistic.
Delusional.
Yeah, optimistic to quite a delusional. So my wife is a VC investor. Okay, and every company that she tells me about, I feel will work because I am so optimistic as a founder that I believe it will work. I will never make a good investor, right? Because I'm inherently optimistic as a person, and most founders I think are. So I don't think I have ever come to a situation and felt there's no out of this. Right? You always feel कि कोई तो तरीका निकल जाएगा. So I don't think I've ever felt an end of the world situation. There have been times at Chalo that we ran out of money. There have been times at Grip that we almost ran out of money. Uh, and so there have been times where it was survival risk for businesses. Uh, But yeah, I think those are probably some of the toughest times that we went through. Um, but we believed that what we were doing made sense. Uh, we had a great team. Always had a great. I think fortunately, always had a great team. Um, and uh, and always thought we'd put through. So some of the other managed to scramble a new round or whatever it was to make it happen.
You have been super lucky also, I would say. And we
Luck is
luck is
critical, critical, critical part of any foundation, and it has been smiled definitely on me to be able to do this 3 times.
just me. Thank you so much, buddy. I mean, we will take questions, but we will take questions personally in another setup outside. But he has agreed to answer a few questions himself. Okay.
I, I hope it's helpful.
I mean, it must have been. The whole idea is that you need some structure and you need some founder market fit. Like whatever you have done so far has splashed out from what you have been doing in your jobs and stuff like that. So that is something that we teach you. How, I mean, just to part it off, how important do you think understanding about entrepreneurship? Like we didn't have what we are doing here back then, right? So, uh, does it help? Would it uh, help anybody, or would it have helped? So like
I think there are certain skills that will help help a potential founder. Now there are different ways to acquire those things, right? I acquired them in a certain way. You must acquire them in a different way. But a lot of founders today are starting very young, right? Often with limited years of experience in a professional setup. Right? You're working for an MNC or a large company, you will imbibe certain things. For example, organization culture, okay, how to recruit people, very basic things. But if you're not experiencing them, then some formal framework to help guide you is important. A lot of people are not doing MBA. MBA was also a framework that helped structure some of the things that I picked up. Right? Like my biggest learning from MBA was about incentive structures. Okay, that's the only thing I really took up. The one number one thing I took from MBA. But I think that a training for entrepreneurs, especially young in their life, is very important. You can't teach everything, but I think you can put structure.